Now, you say in your book that you really weren't looking to direct. You kind of
Right.
fell into directing. Well, your first
Yeah.
movie was Addams Family. How did you fall into? Because if I remember correctly, Addams Family was not a small little movie. It was a studio film. It was on a established IP, and you guys were trying to basically reboot it before reboots were reboots.
Right. Right.
For movies. So how did you fall into that? Like most people are dying to get that job. You just fell into it.
Yeah. Fell into it. I was in LA. I was staying at the Four Seasons Hotel, and I was finishing up Misery. And it was a Sunday morning, and Sweetie and I were watching the Indianapolis 500 on the television, and the front desk rang and said, Scott Rudin just dropped by a package. We're sending it off. And in the package was a letter from Scott saying, read this and meet me in 2 hours at Hugo's, which is a restaurant, sort of a hippy-dippy restaurant. If you like scrambled eggs and spaghetti, that's your restaurant. And read it and meet me in 2 hours. And it was the script for Addams Family. And I had grown up. I was not a fan of the TV show, but I liked the Munsters more, weirdly. Mm-hmm. But I loved the Charles Addams drawings that appeared in the New Yorker, and the Addams Family is based on those drawings. So I read the script. I didn't think it was very good. I said to Sweetie, the script isn't good. And she said, take the meeting with Scott. Maybe he knows it's no good too. So I go and have the meeting. And I say to Scott, why me? And he said, well, there are two reasons. One is I went to Terry Gilliam and Tim Burton, and they both passed. And I thought, if I can't get those two, he said, all the good directors passed, he said. So I thought, instead of taking the chance on some comedy hack, I'd rather hire someone who has a very specific visual style and who knows comedy. And Scott, before he became an independent producer, ran Fox when we did Raising Arizona and when I shot Big. So he saw all the dailies, he heard all the stories about me and Penny, and he knew that I had designed all the shots and all that stuff. So Scott knew that I might be capable. And, I told him what was wrong with the script. He agreed. We got Paul Rudnick to do an uncredited rewrite. And next thing you know, I said to Scott at the end of the meal, I said, look, I'll tell you what, because Scott's very persuasive. I said, if you can get me the job directing the movie, I'll do it. But I didn't think he would.
Right.
So he and myself went up to Orion, which was an independent studio at the time, who was famous for being the most director-friendly studio. Mm-hmm. It was like the Netflix of its day. Mm-hmm. Right now you want to be working at Netflix because they really respect directors, et cetera, et cetera. So did Orion. So Orion thought I was a nice boy, and they trusted Scott, and they agreed to let me make Addams Family.
No, but wasn't Addams Family Paramount?
Well, that's a really good question, and of course, there's the story, which is also in my book.
Yes.
So here's what happens there. Orion, partially because they were so director-friendly, is on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And the one piece of property, and we were halfway done shooting it, right? So the one piece of property they had, and we were halfway done, that might get them to some money to stay solvent, was Addams Family, because it looked commercial. It looked like it was going to be a hit. So I also had the best editor there ever was, Dee Dee Allen, who cut Bonnie and Clyde and, Slapshot and Reds, Serpico. So Dee Dee cut a 15-minute reel of some scenes, and Scott Rudin took it around to all the studios. Universal almost bought it, but they didn't offer enough. And on Friday morning, Frank Mancuso Sr. of Paramount Pictures buys the movie. So it's going to become a Paramount movie. Orion will get some money just to keep them afloat for a while. Independent of him buying the movie, later that day he gets fired. And the new guy that comes in is Stanley Jaffe, who looks at the same 15 minutes, and Stanley is humorless. He sees the same 15 minutes and says, this movie is uncuttable and unreleasable. So for the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks, I'm working at a studio that hates the project, that looks at dailies every day, and the studio people assigned to my movie are calling Dede Allen and saying, we saw the dailies, we don't think this scene will cut together. And Dede says, well, of course it will cut together. It's a really funny scene. But Fester and Wednesday are never in the same frame. And Dede says, yeah, that's what makes it funny. Okay, well, we don't, so okay, fine. So now they hate me. They hate the movie, et cetera, et cetera. I get done. The day you get done, the director on DGA movies, studio movies, have a 10-week director's cut, right? During that time, no one can see the movie. No studio executive can come in and look at it. You don't have to show it to anyone. It's 10 weeks for you to rearrange the movie, which is now just in dailies and rough cut, into the movie you want to show the studio. The day I get finished, not the chairman of the studio, but the president, Gary Lucchese, calls me up and says, can we have lunch? Sure. I go to have lunch with him in the studio in the executive commissary, like where Bill Shatner and the members of the bridge from Star Trek have lunch too. Not the Klingons, but the Star Trek guys get to have it there. And I meet Gary and this other guy named Bill, who's a creative executive assigned to us. And Gary says, show us the movie now. Don't take your 10-week DGA cut. Show it to us now. I go, Gary, it's not going to happen. It's a union thing. I have these 10 weeks. I don't have to. He goes, oh, I know you don't have to, but show it to us so we can help you. I said, I don't want your help. I don't need your help. He goes, we're your friends. I said, no, you're the enemy. No, you're not. And I said, you know what, guys, this has been fun, but I got to go. Thanks for the Cobb salad. And I get up to leave, and Gary says, hey, Bear, if you won't show us the movie, will you at least tell us what it's like? And I go, I really shouldn't do this, but I will. It's like a much sadder version of Sophie's Choice. And I leave. I go back to
That's
my
amazing.
Office. I leave. I go back to my office. I get there. The phone is ringing for like ever. I'm down the hallway. I pick up the phone. It's Scott Rudin. Did you just tell Gary Lucchese that Addams Family is a sadder version of Sophie's Choice? I go, no. He says, what did you tell him? I said, I told him it was a much sadder version of Sophie's Choice. Scott says, call him back. He believes you. Call him back. I said, Scott, how could I turn, if they had seen dailies, how could you look at those dailies and think I could turn this into a sadder version of Sophie's Choice? He goes, first of all, everyone's frightened because Stanley doesn't like the movie. Second of all, executives don't know how to look at dailies. Call Gary back. Okay. Hello, Gary Lucchese, please. Barry Sonnenfeld calling. One moment. Okay, all right. Hello, Barry. Hi, Gar. Hi. Hey, listen, Gar, remember when I told you that Addams Family was like a much sadder version of Sophie's Choice? Yes. Well, see, Gar, here's the thing. It was like kind of a joke. I didn't actually mean it. It was just like a joke. Well, then what's it really like, Barry? I said, well, really? It's really, really funny. And he said, are you serious? Oh, that's fantastic. So he's equally willing to listen to whatever I told him.
Oh, my God.
That version of Sophie's Choice, very funny movie. And then, it was tough. Stanley saw movie, after the 10 weeks, and hated it. In fact, it was in my contract when I did Addams Family Values that Stanley had to bring his wife to any recruited audience screenings of the movie so that she could tell him when it was funny. That's how.
That was in your contract?
Yes, because the man had no sense of. Oh, I had other things in my contract, like that I was in charge of the set and Scott couldn't tell me what to do or whether. Because Scott drove me crazy. He was on the set on the first one every single minute, screaming at me. In pre-production, we often met in his office, and things were so difficult between the two of us because Scott thinks he's right until proven wrong, which is what a producer should do or a director should do. But I also believe that I was right until proven wrong. So there were a lot of disagreements, a lot of fights, and at some point, with him screaming at me, I would make a fort out of his couch. I would take all the pillows and bolsters off, and I would build a fort, and I would crawl into the fort and then put the last remaining pillow where the entryway was, and I would yell at him, "I can't hear you, I'm in the fort." And Scott would scream, "Get the fuck out of there. I don't have time for this shit. This is bullshit. Get out of the fort."
God.
But he always obeyed the sanctity of the fort. He never said, "Get out of there."
He never kicked it open. He never kicked it open.
He never went like that and said, "Hello, there's no fort." He'd say, and he'd yell, "Get out of the fort." He'd
The
never
sanctity
say,
of the
"Get
fort."
out of the couch," right? And I'd say, "Not until you apologize."
Oh my! You gotta
All
be
right,
kidding me.
then will you get no? And then he'd say, "All right, I'm sorry. Get out of the fucking fort." I go, "That okay?" And I, raise my head out and build the couch back into a couch, and we would continue.
Oh
because
my God.
here's the thing about Hollywood:
Oh my God.
everyone's afraid, everyone's insecure,
Yeah.
and if you have any strong opinions and fight for those opinions, you'll usually win. It's what I learned from Scott Rudin. Rudin, his whole thing is Maggie Smith. He wants her in everything. So, I'll be in the car with him driving somewhere, and he'll be on the speakerphone with some studio, and he'll say, "If I can't have Maggie Smith for that role, I'm going to quit and shut down your fucking production." And without Phil, they go, okay. You can have Maggie Smith. And I'm thinking, really, Scott? You've got all these other things, and if you can't have Maggie Smith for that one scene that she's in, you're going to shut down? Are you? And Scott says, they don't know that. They're just afraid. Scott taught me that if you stand at the edge of the cliff with the studio executive and say, "Let's hold hands and both commit suicide," they'll back down. They'll say, no, I don't want to die. They won't say, "All right, let's do it, shithead. Come on, you want to die too?" They won't do that because Scott's such a bully, just like Donald Trump. They're such bullies. At some point, everyone goes, okay. I wonder what Russia gave Trump on Lindsey Graham. I'm so interested.